Double down instead of apologize. I had two roommates. One was new, we'll call her roommate A, and one I had been rooming with for a while, we'll call her roommate B. One night, I went to a party with my boyfriend, spent the night at his place and came back the next day. Roommate B asked me if I'd seen her gold necklace. Nope. Later that night, roommate B slams her closet closed, uses the lock, which she never did, and walks outside the room to make a call. I can hear her saying, "We're not friends, I wouldn't let her borrow anything." When she comes back in, I confront her. She says she found the necklace in her drawer, but she knows she didn't put it there and she knows I'm lying about borrowing it. WTF. She expounds upon this further by stating she has a witness who saw me wearing her necklace at the party last night. I go to my closet, pull out my gold necklace, show it to her. No way is she believing me though. Her belief is that I'm a thief, or at the very least a liar, and although what she's saying makes no sense in light of the new evidence, she's gonna stick to it, so she requests to move out. I'm sure she spread bad rumors about me with the housing people in the process, and among our mutual acquaintances since she couldn't keep her big mouth shut. However, before she moved out, she and I had to go on a school-sponsored, overnight trip with a few dozen other people. About a week after we got back, we were at the same party and I hear her tell this story. When we got back from the trip, my socks were missing. I asked roommate A about them, but she said she hadn't seen them. I turn around and there they are, in the bottom of her closet. Roommate B never apologized to me, even though she now knew who had taken her stuff, and moved out shortly thereafter. I have no idea why she assumed I, the roommate she'd had since day one with no problems, had taken her stuff when roommate A was the new person, except that she truly wasn't a hole. Two stories in one. I was fortunate to have lived with two during my freshman year. Eddie was my original roommate. After the typical freshman email exchanges, who's getting the fridge, microwave, rug, etc., we had the opportunity to meet on move-in day. At first, Eddie was a great roommate, fun to hang out with, good to grab a bite with, etc. But then Eddie found out how hard engineering is. You see, he was a mechanical engineering major and found that it was just too difficult. Instead of switching majors, he decided to just give up. He stopped going to class, didn't go out on the weekend. He just stayed there all the time, day and night. I kid you not, he only left to eat at the cafe on the first floor. Lucky for me, Eddie failed all of his classes and didn't come back, leaving me with a room all to myself. I started my second semester with my own room/bachelor pad. I moved the beds together to set up a nice queen bed, to host the non-existent ladies I'd be bringing home. The room was huge without a second person. Enter John. John and his roommate had a disagreement, so they moved him to my room. John was weird. I have no other words to describe him, other than a total weirdo. This coming from a self-proclaimed fantasy geek computer scientist. I have a really high tolerance for weird, and John exceeded them all. He loved Hilary Duff. So much so, he watched her movies on repeat. All the time. Whenever he was home. Which was all the time, because he didn't have any friends. He used my toothbrush. I had no idea at the time, until I walked out one day, to see him with my toothbrush dangling out of his mouth, like it's totally normal. He showered every 2 to 3 days. Not horrible, but definitely not often enough. He would stand over my shoulder and watch what I was doing on my computer. As in, he would read every word. When I would confront him about it, he acted like it was totally normal. He wasn't unsafe or unstable, he was just really friggin' weird. Thankfully I only had to deal with him for like 7 weeks or so, before the year came to a close. A person of questionable morals, one of my freshman roommates was a self-professed kleptomaniac. She got a huge thrill from stealing clothes from department stores. Usually Nordstrom. In the first week or so of school, she went through her closest and showed us all of the clothing she had stolen, plus she knew how much each item cost and how she'd swiped it, thousands of dollars worth of nice clothing. She had so much that half of it still had tags on and she never wore it, but she took it because she knew she could. Usually this theft involved carrying a really big purse, taking way too many items into a dressing room, and then emerging with one item in the purse, one to buy, and the rest to put back. Then if an alarm went off, they would assume it was just the item she had purchased and let her leave. Half the time she returned the item she paid for soon after too. It got to the point where girls in the dorm would go to the mall with her, and they'd all pick out clothes they liked and she'd go back on her own later and steal them for them. It was crazy. And to my knowledge, she's still doing this and hasn't been caught. She never seemed to steal from anywhere other than department stores, and none of my stuff ever went missing, so I guess she wasn't too bad of a roommate, really. Just a person of questionable morals. The college roommate. When I was a junior in college, I lived in a university-owned apartment with 5 other girls. I previously roomed with 2 of them, but the rest were new. Sometime during the first couple weeks of school, I overheard one of the new girls talking on the phone with her mom. Her name was Kate. I didn't catch the whole conversation, but it seemed like she was slightly arguing with her mom and assured her that she was taking her meds. My ears perked up at the sound of that and was curious. As time went on though, I forgot about it. The 6 of us got along really well. We hung out together, went to bars and clubs together, watched TV together, etc. I was happy because I didn't get along with some of my roommates from last year and was happy to have a drama-free year. And Kate was really cool. She was a dance major and a free spirit. She acted as our big sister when we went out to bars and clubs, making sure that we stayed together and watched out for aggressive guys. However, around spring things started to change with Kate. Our roommate Nicole revealed to us that Kate had been visiting her at her work frequently. She worked at one of the student stores on campus, to the point that she started to hide when Kate would show up. She wasn't obnoxious, but just very chatty and distracting. As time went on, it seemed that Kate was taking a strong interest in Nicole, not in a romantic or sexual way, but in a single white female sort of way. Kate even seemed to get upset when Nicole would go out with her boyfriend Andy. Even though she was the one who played matchmaker in the first place, at first the rest of us didn't know what to make of Nicole's accusations, until we started seeing Kate do odd things ourselves. Parking was always tight in our neighborhood, and the cops freely wrote tickets. That didn't stop Kate from parking anywhere she wanted. We were shocked to find that Kate had racked up hundreds of dollars in tickets. We also found later that she had dropped her classes. If I recall, she even quit her part-time job. Meanwhile, Kate's harassment of Nicole continued and got stranger. One night Nicole woke up to find Kate in her room, standing over her and staring intently. Kate said, "You look like you've been crying rivers of sorrow," and walked out. Soon after, Nicole started spending more time at Andy's place. Another time we were all watching TV in the living room. 2 of the guys from across the hall were also there. Kate was in one corner and started laughing to herself. We tried to ignore her, but it was impossible. I left the room at that point to get some work done. A few minutes later, Kate came in my room without knocking, sat on the floor, and lit a joint. My other roommate Helen and I asked her to leave because we were working. She left, but a half hour later she returned and did the same thing. Helen and I looked at each other incredulously, then asked her to leave again. Later, the guys from across the hall told us that she was mumbling strange things about blood and doom and sadness. But still laughing to herself. After months of this, my roommates and I had it. The end of the year was only a few weeks away, but we no longer felt safe. I started sleeping with a knife under my pillow, per my dad's suggestion. We wondered if she had stopped taking her meds and her actions were a result of that. We wrote a letter to management requesting that she be kicked out, and all 5 of us signed it. Our wish was granted. Kate was furious with us, naturally. She said she felt betrayed that we didn't talk to her first. She packed her things while we were out of the apartment. During the last week of school, Kate returned. No one wanted to talk to her, mainly because we were afraid. Linda, Kate's immediate roommate, who she shared a room with, volunteered to confront her. Apparently, Kate was doing better and seemed to start taking her meds again, as she spoke with a level head. She never mentioned why she stopped taking them in the first place. She also had planned to re-enroll in the classes she dropped next year. Looking back, I wonder if we could have handled things differently. Perhaps if we had confronted Kate about her sudden change in behavior, she may have realized the downward spiral she was going. And surely there was a better alternative than to gang up on her and kick her out. But we were just young girls, and although Nicole and I were psych majors, it didn't mean we were experts on mental health. We were just scared young girls and didn't want her near us anymore. No offense, my first roommate. Oh, the memories, very heavy, very socially awkward and definitely psychotic. Often mumbled to himself with shifty eyes, ate my food, and was either railing against the evils of religion out trying to get me to join the Army of the Virgin or some other Catholic section. He often lounged around in his tidy whities and refused to clothe himself if I had guests or girls over. He would just sit down and put a blanket over his lap. I walked in on him jacking it or blaring PRN a number of times, with which he used my tissues. He would also have long phone arguments with his girlfriend, who according to the wallet photo he had of her, was Hoggish Greedley from Captain Planet. The kicker for me was when he had a breakdown, he called the RA and a counselor in to talk with him while I was writing a paper. He was highly agitated and at one point said, "I just looked over at Demon Juices while he was asleep and thought to myself, I should just take out my knife and kill him and then myself." No offense, Demon Juices. I was in the zone with the paper, so I automatically replied, "None taken," then did a double take as the horror dawned on me. Nonplussed, eye contact with my RA, noped out and moved to a different floor. This will probably be buried, but hopefully someone can benefit from my past misery.